A good relationship starts with good communication. Unknown. On today's episode, we are talking MarCom, also known as marketing and communications. This is something we all use in our businesses on a daily basis. Doing both really well helps your business both internally and externally. You have the power to be the boss of your own life. I'm your host, Monica Allen. I'm a wife, mom, entrepreneur, best-selling author, lifelong learner, and your biz bestie. I have a love and passion for all things small business. Growing my own company from $700 to over 7 figures annually, my goal is to bring you inspiration, business-focused topics and tips, encouragement, and a community that helps you launch, grow, and scale your business, whether you are a dreamer, a side hustler, or a seasoned entrepreneur. You are listening to the Become Your Own Boss podcast. This episode is brought to you by Vid Kids School. Do you have a creative kid who wants to earn money every month from YouTube? Vid Kids School is an easy program for kids age 9 and up, taught by a kid. It is actually taught by my daughter, Imana, who taught herself how to do animation and video editing on her iPhone. Then she launched a YouTube channel, Pastel Pineapple, which now has over 12,000 subscribers, and she has paid hundreds of dollars every month from YouTube. Your kid can learn it too. So can you if you want to earn some extra cash. She walks you through the whole process from start to finish to get you monetized on YouTube in no time. Just go to vidkid.school to take advantage of a special offer for Become Your Own Boss listeners. That's vidkid.school. On today's episode, I'm speaking with a former government reporter and founder of Right Now Results, a marketing and communications firm helping business owners and organizations to develop and implement strategic plans that maximize their communications and marketing budgets. Cris Wright, or as she prefers, Cris, joins us today. Hi, Cris. Welcome to the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me, Monica. I've been looking forward to this one for a long time now.
Yay, me too. I'm so excited to have you as well, because I think you have a topic that we as business owners can so use. So I cannot wait to jump right in. But first, tell me a little bit about why you started your business.
Oh my goodness. Why I started my business. I asked myself. To be honest, I started out of necessity it was a time in my life where I realized I'm not happy. Like, I was not happy in any way working for any of the jobs that I did, especially past journalism. I started out as a reporter and at the age of 14, and I did that all the way up through 29. And I decided it was time for me to move on because I'd written across the nation at that point, and it just wasn't feeling like what I wanted to do. Like, I can't even explain that feeling all the way fully, but it didn't feel like this is my forever journey. And so when I was working at the county, I had one of the world's worst bosses. It was making my life really, really difficult. And I felt like if I'm going to have to work under rules, I'd like to work under rules that make sense. And seeing as though the folks that I keep working with keep setting really ridiculous rules, and they were restrictive with me being a creative, I have a lot of ideas. I have lots of creative ways that I believe we can paint any one canvas. And at a certain point, I realized the only way for me to do this is for me to build the business that makes the most sense for me. So I jumped out there. I was one of those. I didn't have any plans for real. I just jumped.
Okay. Well, some people do that, and you have to just build your way up from there. So tell me about the start of your business. What did that look like? How did you get into helping other businesses?
When I left work full time, I had an opportunity to work with FEMA. It was one of those contractor quick jobs where they're paying a lot of money, but you work pretty much 24/7. And I knew that they would pay me more quickly than my job did. And at the same time, I also didn't know if this was going to be a week gig or a 6-month gig. I just didn't know what that pot of money was going to look like, but I knew I was going to have a little bit of a pot. So when I came back, I ended up I did inspections in Texas, Florida, and then Puerto Rico for 3 months. And when I got back, I had a nice little egg, but I didn't really know what to do with that. So my sister, wonderful sister, had been in business 2 years before me. And she comes over. At the time, we were not the best of friends, to be honest. We loved each other, always ride or die. However, at that time in our lives, we just weren't seeing eye to eye. We didn't necessarily like each other. But she came to me and she very smartly said there were some things that I knew that she needed to know. And there were some things that she knew that I needed to know. Now, I'm the big sister and I'm like, sis, like, you don't know what I know. I graduated from Howard University. Like, I don't necessarily, what are you talking about? But that was one of the best things that I could have done when I started, was to partner up with her for a series of workshops that both of us still use as foundational pieces in our individual businesses and in our joint venture together. What we started as this like it was supposed to be one series of workshops. It turned into a few series of workshops and a joint venture that we still own together. So if anyone is starting a business, I tell them, go look at where your weaknesses are and see who is in your life that you can lean on while they lean on you for some of their weaknesses. And there's a way to go about that. And that's a whole spiel.
Right.
But that's how I got started.
Okay. So sister comes over and you all collaborate and decide, you have some weaknesses. I have some weaknesses. I have some strengths. You have some strengths. Let's put them together and make them work.
Yep.
Got it.
Yep.
My husband and I pretty much did the same thing. That's exactly what we did. So I do think it's helpful to have a partner in business. I know there's a lot of people who go it alone, but I think if you can find that right partner, because that's the key too, then it can work really, really well for someone in business or for a couple of people in business. So you started a business, you had the courses. Now, were your workshops around marketing and communications?
A little bit. Again, very smartly, we looked at where our strengths were and where our individual businesses were going. And so we did a Business 101 Foundation series where she handled more of the operations portions, the business planning and operations. And I did most of the marketing, branding and marketing parts. So again, we ended up building, even today, you'll see it out in the Right Now results, branding, or in our services, you'll see it in our marketing, and then our clients see it all the time as part of the Nonprofit Comms Academy. In the background, there will be these random, if anyone's listening to this and you join the academy, and there are these random like hot pink, because you see my colors are blue and orange.
Right.
But then like in the academy, there's these hot pink slides. That's from mine and Ray's joint workshop back then.
Oh, wow. That's really great. Okay. Well, I'm glad you got started. And so your business kicked off in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
So now you've been an entrepreneur for 6 years, going on 7. That's fantastic. That's really good. So tell me a little bit about what problem are you helping business owners solve when it comes to marketing and communication?
Taking it all on themselves.
Okay.
There is no way you can take on marketing and communications yourself. There's no way that you can hire that one awesome virtual assistant that's going to solve all your marketing problems. And the reason is there are 25 specialties under communications, including marketing and all the things that fall under marketing. Social media strategy is not the same thing as social media management, is not the same thing as reputation management. And that's just under social media, right? And there are a couple of other ones that you need. You have to have graphic design. You need to have copy. You've got video and video editing. And then you got copywriting, but then you've got copy editing. As someone who comes from a newsroom, I can tell you there are writers who are fabulous at putting words together. but they need an editor. They're not great editors, and it's grammatically incorrect, or a comma needs to be added, or something needs to be spliced, or another question needs to be asked. And so they require an editor. And it's the same thing with any of the copy that we're putting out. So there's no way that any one person can manage all of that together. You have to be really strategic about what your goals are, where you're going, and then hire in the right people to handle those different pieces.
Gotcha. And so I was going to ask you the question, and I think you may have answered it, but just to clarify for the audience, what is the difference between marketing and communication?
Ooh, I love that question. So we actually have a wonderful animation that yours truly put together some years back. It was it was that moment where you think you've got the linchpin to it all. I mean, year one of business. And I'm like, I know exactly what's going to get them to come. It's an animation that explains what communications is. And so I spent like this whole week, I did the voiceover, I did the animation itself, I did all of the copy. I happen to be one of those. I've been in communications for so long that I have a lot of different specialties under my hat. So yeah, I put together this animation, and I tell about this because if you're a newer business owner, you're going to have moments like this where you're pretty sure that the only thing that's holding everything up is an animation, the right landing page, ain't that right, Monica?
That one thing. Yeah.
Just that one thing, swear. But yeah, I did this animation. Y'all, it did not bring in all the sales in the world, but it has operated to tell folks exactly this. So communications, marketing falls, and this is my school of thought. There are other schools of thought that believe that they are the exact same thing. They're wrong, at least in my opinion.
They're wrong.
They're wrong, just FYI. There are others that believe that communications falls under marketing, which again, to me, that just doesn't make any sense. Communications is any way that you need to relay information about or within your organization. And so marketing falls under communications as you are communicating to external audiences for the sake of building brand recognition and hopefully revenues. And so that's your marketing part, but you still have team communications, you still have media relations, and media relations, some of it paid media can be considered under your marketing. But your earned media, that is public relations that is earning that media for you. So that falls under communications. For nonprofits, you have board communications, you've got government relations. So not everything under communications necessarily falls under marketing. Again, in my opinion, if you go out there in the world and somebody says something different, don't say Cris was wrong. Just tell them that there are different schools of thought and tell them that they're probably wrong and they should go and watch my animation.
Cris, you'll have to send me over your animation so I can link it in the show notes. That way people can see the visual of it, because I know I'm a visual person. I love that. So Definitely share that with me so I can put it in the show notes. And so we're talking about marketing and communications. I think I've been leaving the S off of it, but communications. As a business owner, what's just right now, given the world that we're in, and I know this is going to be it's a broad question, but narrow, in that what's one of the most important things for us to know when it comes to those areas right now, given the craziness that we're living in with social and just everything?
Oh, goodness. Team communications. Please get your team communications together. Please. Your team is going to save your life all day long. And so make sure that you have smooth communications with them. It is going to include some of your SOPs, but also your policies and the way that y'all talk to each other. What's your team culture? Your team culture, by the way, comes out of your brand. Your brand. I'm about to say a lot of words real quick, Monica. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So your team culture is built out of your brand. Your brand is not just your pretty colors and your logo and your website. That's just your brand identity. That's like you got clothes, but there's a person on the inside. And so there's a bigger part of your brand that you need to build out. For me, the most important part is your brand personality, because that's going to tell you how your brand sounds, how they talk, how they interact with the world. And when you determine that, you're able to build team communications internally that builds a team culture surrounding that brand personality. And so now you're able to make more strategic decisions as to how y'all relate to each other. For my team, we are somewhat of a family, but we are also professional. You know, we are caring and professional is what we say internally. And so we have different sections in our Telegram. We have selected Telegram as our centralized location for us to talk to each other. And we have a break room in there where we update each other about what's going on in our lives, what's going on in our world, because we're all virtual. My entire team is virtual. And most of the people that we interact with now, definitely post-pandemic, is going to be virtual, and they're going to be from other places. And you are honestly shortchanging yourself if you've decided that you don't want to work with someone remotely at this point and decided that it's confusing or it's hard. No, it's not. You just merely have to build out really good team communications between them. So for me, it's at the top of it. Make sure that your people know what's going on with your business, and make sure that they know when things start to go wrong, how to inform you and how to hold you accountable. So my sister and I have implemented a 360 rule. Her idea, not mine, but I've gone with it and it turned out all right. It means that I can be written up by my team as much as I can write them up. And that requires us to, or has helped us to communicate better about what our needs are across the board. Even as a leader, I've got needs that I've got to communicate to them. You know what? 5 meetings in one day, too many for me. And so I need you to keep it at 4. That way I don't get written up for missing a meeting because I allowed too many meetings to be put on my schedule for one day.
Gotcha. No, I love that team communication. I will say I did not think that would be your answer. I didn't know what it would be, but I do know that for us in our company, that is extremely important. And I can remember at the start of our business, the way we communicated was a notebook because we had multiple shifts. So you would leave a note for the next shift, and then they would leave a note, just keeping everybody in the loop of what's happening. I would leave notes. Ethan would leave notes. But now we use something called River. I know you said you all use Telegram. We use River, which is similar to Slack, but it allows us to talk to each other and put up topics and put in chats. And, there's certain things that my team has learned about me. Like, I love them dearly. And so when they ask me for something, I'm going to do my best to make it happen. But if I don't, charge it to my mind and not my heart. Like, so make sure I write it down. And they'll come back to me. Did you write that down? Because if I don't write it down, they know Monica, she's going to forget. But I love that team communications is so important. And to have those meetings, not too many, but to have those meetings where you can get together as a team, whether it's virtual or remote or in person. And I am finding now, I was telling you that I'm hiring a couple of people. Well, we have changed the job description of these positions because now we're going to allow remote work. And in the past, we haven't done that. So even though they have to be physically in the city, they will have opportunity to work from home as well. So giving them some flexibility with that in their hours. So I love that team communication. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you this. I know team communication is important. Do you feel like that's where businesses are making the biggest mistakes, or what area are we making the biggest mistakes in when it comes to our marketing communications?
On the straight up marketing side, it's being too dang on stressed out about it. You can't be perfect in marketing. I have one of the biggest challenges is getting my clients out of their heads. It's either that they're too loose about it, like way too loose. We got no plans. We're just posting. We're just, sending out emails. There's no KPI. There's no ultimate goal that we're headed towards. So there's that bunch. On the other side, I have folks who are constantly trying to get it right. And especially when it comes to business owners, a lot of us come from a full-time environment where, we were constantly being measured, where we are measuring ourselves, where things need to be at a certain level of excellence. Listen, I'm a Howard University grad. Like, we are all about excellence. But in business, you cannot be perfect. And in marketing, you can end up looking inauthentic and stale and sterile if you try to be too professional about it. And here's where it helps you as a business owner. Take comfort in the fact that you don't have to be perfect in marketing. Please take comfort in that, because again, there are more than 25 specialties that make this entire thing work. There is no way that you're going to get all of that perfectly. And so you've got to get comfortable with dropping balls. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. We're supposed to be juggling all the plates and spinning all the plates. Well, be okay with that crashing sound. Let them crash and let it be music to your ears. Because if you've got a strategy, then you know that the efforts that you are doing are going to get you to your ultimate goal. And whatever those plates that crashed on the floor, they're just extra music. They're just extra background noise. Your graphics don't have to be perfect, but they do have to be intentional. Your brand doesn't have to be perfect, but it does have to be intentional. So yeah, I think that's one of the biggest mistakes, is trying to take everything in and be perfect at it at the same time. You can't do that.
Right. And I love that, because I think it's important that people, your customers, your clients understand that you're human. You're not a computer. You're not just putting stuff out, and it absolutely is perfect. One of the things, and I get caught up in this a little bit sometimes with the podcast, for instance, I have to just let some stuff go. All of my words aren't going to be perfectly clear or perfect and on point all the time, but I'm human and I don't have time to edit that out. So we're just going to go with it.
Just go with it. And here's the thing. No one notices. No one else notices but you.
Right. And we're all so busy anyway.
That part. We got so much stuff going on that no one is paying attention to that little bitty detail. And I'll be honest with you. If someone does notice that little detail, I have two reactions to that. One, you may not be my person, because you worried about too much right now. And I am all about keeping it as balanced as possible and my peace. So, that's an indicator for me as a business owner. But on the other side of it, it also, I lost my point. Where was I?
You had point one, they may not be your person, but then point two, as far as them catching that little bit of a snippet or error or whatever you want to call it, imperfection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was something. I lost it. I completely lost it.
It's okay. It probably will come back to you. But you know what? We're not perfect. If it doesn't, it's okay.
See, look at it. Look at how, and here's the thing. They won't notice. Even if we left this in, no one else is going to notice that it's because point number one was good. I heard it coming out of my mouth and I was like, "Ooh, girl, that was good. Pat on your back."
That's a good point. No, but it's true. I mean, and I think a lot of times, and actually I'm going to do some posts around this from a business perspective, is we get so caught up in trying to be perfect that we get held up. And so you got to just go for it. You got to just put it out there. If it works, great. If it doesn't, it's okay. You have, like you mentioned, you have a strategy. You go back in again. You have a strategy. You just keep going back in. I love that. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
So another question for you. This is more around you specifically, but since 2016, what's been the biggest things you've learned on your entrepreneurial journey? You can just share a couple.
I've learned to get in touch with self.
Okay.
I have had to take a hard look at who I am and how that relates to business, because as a business owner, there isn't anyone telling you what you have to do. I mean, you've got clients, you have projects, you have your internal projects. So in a way, you have some boundaries that you have to operate in, but you created those boundaries. It's all on you. And so in learning who I am and how I function, I've been able to build a business, a team, projects, SOPs that back how I operate. So for instance, I don't do well before 11 o'clock. That is why this is 11 o'clock on the dot. Is because my brain does not operate very well before then. I could be awake at 5 a.m. and it is still, my brain is still not going to turn all the way on until like 11 o'clock. Some folks say that it's about the time that you're born. I don't know, but I do know it to be fact. And so 3 years ago, I made it a hard rule that I do not at all do anything before 11 o'clock. My time doesn't matter what time zone I'm in. So listen, if I booked a meeting with you and I was central at the time, then, and now I'm on Eastern, my assistant is likely going to send you a message and ask you if we can push that meeting down by an hour, ahead of time. And like I said, because I've learned that about myself, now it's part of the business to the point where if you did receive that message, you're receiving it in enough time that it doesn't feel like, we're being insensitive or unprofessional in any way. It's happening way above. Like my assistant knows, look for that. The other thing that I have learned, and this is really tough. This is tough as a Taurus, y'all. I'm a Taurus, but full confession, I don't know everything. I don't know everything. And I don't know what I don't dang on know.
I laugh because my husband is a Taurus and he thinks he knows everything.
It is a hard thing to admit. That's what I'm saying. It's one of the hardest ones in business. Has really been. I don't know everything. In the beginning, I thought I have a wide range of experience. I was 29 in the C-suite. I was 25 training full-fledged reporters that were twice and 3 times my senior, how to do things and how to incorporate. I was coming up with newsroom plans. So to tell me when I get out into business that I can't understand a concept or that my money mindset is not advanced enough. But yeah, I've had to learn because in the beginning, I thought that I knew everything. I thought that I could figure out, based on the information I was receiving, the best way to go about something for me, because baby, I can do this. Well, there were certain things that they said back then that I'm just now catching up to. And that's 6 years ago. They mentioned that your money mindset has to evolve. I know how to budget. I've been budgeting since I was literally 14 years old. I don't need any kind of money mindset, anything. I'll BS. Yes, I do. I needed a money mindset evolution. The point is, it is not easy to take a look in the mirror and say, I don't understand this. I don't know this, or I don't even know that I don't know. That's where my biggest hole is. I've learned instead to sit back and listen. To just listen, take it in, put it under your hat. Like my sister says, she says, put it in your back pocket. I say, put it under your hat. Like between that and putting pins and things, we don't really lose track of very much. But listen to it, take in that information and understand that you may not know what in the Sam Hill they're talking about just yet. It will, right. You will figure it out later.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that was tough. How's your husband dealing with it?
He's good. I mean, we've been in business together now for 20 years. And I will say that, when we first started out on the journey together, it was really tough sometimes because he thought he knew everything. Not so much about if someone else told him, it was different. But sometimes coming from me, it was more like he knew best, Yeah. So sometimes, you just let it roll with it. Sometimes you don't. It just kind of depends on the situation. But he's a Taurus and my daughter's a Taurus. So pray for me.
Yay.
I have 2 of them in my house. No,
they are basically the best people.
Tauruses are pretty cool. Sagittariuses are pretty cool too. So that's me.
We'll accept you.
We put up with all the other signs. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's great though. They're both very ambitious people. And that's fun for me because I am as well. Another question for you, Cris. Do you have any suggestions for us when it comes to staying on top of our marketing as business owners? Can you give us some suggestions?
Oh, yeah. Get a plan. Get a plan. It doesn't matter how long it takes you. Sit down and do a plan. So I'll give y'all Any good plan includes analysis, goals, and practice. And so I give it to them again because I know they didn't write it down just yet. Go find your pen and paper. Any good plan includes analysis, goals, and practice. So you have to start with an analysis of everything that's going on, internal, external. Do a gap analysis if you've been in business for a while. Do a SWOT analysis always. Always.
I
It's
love
strengths,
those.
weaknesses, right? So do that front analysis, survey your internal staff, survey your existing clients, survey your community. You want all the information you possibly can get at your disposal on where you've been so that you can figure out where you're going. Go and do that audit of all of your social, all of your digital, everything. I'm talking about you're looking at yourself as a person. Do I like to show up on video, or am I more of an audio person? Do I have my words together more in a keynote format, or do I have them more together when I am doing a feedback session with someone, so that you know whether you're going for guest interviews moving into your next year? And so you're going to do that full analysis. Then you're going to set your goals, your measurable goals. We've all heard of SMART goals. So you set your measurable goals. And under your goals, under each goal, you should have 3 to 4 goals. Under each of those 3 to 4 goals, you should have 3 to 4 strategies to achieve each of those goals. Under each of those strategies, you should have an action plan. So that comes in the form of a project management board. I use Asana. It comes in the form of a full document report. And this thing gonna be about 15 pages by the time you get done with it. It is what it is. But once you have those action plans on how it's going to be accomplished, now you can move into your practice mode. And this is kind of a two-parter. You first put together all of the things that you know that you're going to need. You know you're going to need certain emails. By this point, you know exactly what emails you're going to need. You know what graphics you're going to need because you have already decided what your major marketing pushes are going to be. So you're able to put all of those together ahead of time, which is going to save you time later on as you move through the year. And then you straight up just put it into practice. Marketing should not be something that's you have to think about on a regular basis. It should be running, even if you're not able to post, on a regular basis. Like say you get off your plan. A plan is great. All right. And I get you a plan. But what a plan allows you to do is it allows you to color inside of the lines on purpose. Like as life is moving around you, your plan is the black lines on our coloring book. And then you get to know that you are coloring inside of those lines, even if you're not paying attention to it. I ain't gonna lie to you. There was a year in the pandemic. I didn't pull out my annual plan for the entire year. You're supposed to review that thing every quarter, if not every month. And I usually try to do it, but I didn't have time. There were lots of pieces moving, and I was moving things up and backwards. And when I got to the end of the year, because I do make sure that I do my annual planning every year, no matter what. So once I got to the end of the year, I'm doing my analysis. I'm looking at last year's plan. Y'all, I was on top of it. Like I'm doing all kinds of pats on the back. And here's why. Because your subconscious is constantly solving problems for you. You don't have to think about the things in order for your brain to be doing what you needed it to do. And so when you lay out that plan, your subconscious now has a roadmap. So that when you're not consciously thinking about it, or when the world goes into pandemic shutdown mode, or, you end up having a baby, or like at the, they decided they wanted to come into the world early, like anything can happen. And you have already written that roadmap into your subconscious. And so any of the conscious decisions that you're making, most likely, they're going to be in line with that plan that you've done.
Love that. And so I think too, the great thing about a plan, especially if you have a team and you're not the person leading the charge on marketing, if you have somebody in that role, it's so essential that you as the owner of the business are on the same page as the person that you've put in that role. I think that's so wonderful.
Yeah, buddy, please don't send your marketing people just out there. Don't just tell them like, I want you to take over my social media. That's cute. That's real cute. Don't do that. Get a social media strategist to come in if you're not yourself able to do the strategy. But make sure that the person who's going to be managing your social, they should know months in advance that you want to do a holiday push. They should
Right.
know months in advance that you are getting ready to shift your branding, or you're thinking about changing a process. They should know these things way in advance so that they can do them for you. And most importantly, not message you.
Right.
Like,
Right.
I love my team, but I don't want them messaging me all day about questions that I could have asked. I could have answered ahead of time.
Right. Exactly. No, I totally agree with that. And you also want to make sure that that person knows your voice, not your voice, but your brand's voice.
Absolutely.
More specifically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are there any marketing trends we should know about right now?
Yeah. Social audio. Social audio. If you are listening to the sound of my voice, then you are primed to get your butt on over into social audio. It is something that I believe is not going to go away. It was already here before Clubhouse kicked off. And Clubhouse, of course, launching in the middle of the pandemic, it created a big buzz for social audio. Now we're starting to see it come up in LinkedIn. It's over in Twitter Spaces. You've got Convos. You've got any number of things. And I think it is because it's part of what they call Web 3.0 trend that is moving, where we are more community based. Folks want to interact. Where our audience is, where our world is right now, is wanting to interact, wanting to have conversations about any number of things, not necessarily be sold to. They don't want to be told what to do.
Right.
Maybe I understand them because they're Taurus hippie. They don't like being told what to do. So don't tell them what to do, but present yourself in a way where they can interact with you. So you have Clubhouse as an option. You have fan base is now happening. But then if you're not yet comfortable in downloading a new app and getting used to a new app, then use Twitter Spaces. Go to the LinkedIn audio rooms. Heck, did you know Facebook has audio rooms?
Well, I knew they were trying. I didn't know if they actually made it happen.
It ain't pretty. I ain't gonna lie to you. They're not.
Because I know Zuck was trying to get it out there, and he did some stuff with like Gary V, and it just hasn't really came to the forefront for me. So I don't see it, but
there is one advantage on those rooms. Is you open that room and you don't necessarily have to be there. It will ring you when someone joins it. So say you want to do like office hours, then you can open up an audio room at 11 o'clock every day, and you don't have to sit in it. You can go on about your business. And when someone actually joins that room, it's going to ring you on your side, almost like a Zoom call.
Interesting. Okay. So question around that. Where is that on Facebook? Like if I'm in the app, where do you know where to find that?
It's up. They may have moved it. I'm going to pull it up.
That's another thing about Facebook. They like to change stuff all the time.
But hey, the moving of the buttons gets a little bit daunting. Like,
exactly. Can we just leave them
where the buttons are?
Yes.
Okay, so it is, if you're on your desktop, it's still right under on your home page where you go post. It's going to be right under that. It says create room.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to go off our screen right now, but I will check that out. And then I'm going to see. Okay. But it's called Create Room. So it's probably on here somewhere too on the phone. Okay. I'm going to find it, but that's good to know that that's there. I like that idea because especially as a business coach or as someone who's in that type of space, that would be really a great way to connect with your people. And I'm up here thinking, for me, our primary thing is products that we're selling, but I'm like, ooh, how can I connect with my audience a little bit more? Sure, we're on Instagram and we're on Facebook Business and we're on Twitter. We're in all those places, TikTok. But how else can we actually connect with our people and not selling to them, but just for them to get to know the brand better, the people behind the brand, the people who are producing this stuff. Anyway, something to think about. Thank you for throwing that out as an upcoming trend, because it is something we need to consider. And we always need to stay on top of our marketing communications. Cris, I really appreciate you being here. I'm going to have you back because I think this is something that's ever changing, but yet constant.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We've been communicating. The first newspaper was in the 1800s and we still do it. And before that, we were communicating. So there's a baseline. But like we've already talked about with Facebook moving that button, things shift and they change, and our audiences and what they want shift and change. And we've got to be open to shifting and changing with them.
Right.
But do it in a way that makes sense for you. I do not believe on hopping on to the TikTok trend of doing the dance videos simply because everyone else is doing it. So I'm going to do it. Baby, I got 2 left feet. I was, my family bullied me as a kid and told me I didn't know how to dance. And so at a certain point, I didn't attempt to. And so I am now 35 years old. I don't know how to drop it like it's no kind of hot. It's definitely real cold and freezing. I'm going to try it. But I'm not going to hop on a TikTok trend because that's not me, and it's not my comfort zone. And you don't always have to push yourself out of your comfort zone in order to be successful, regardless of what anybody else says to them. But I will leave it there. Thank you so much, Monica.
Thank you. And I was going to say on TikTok, I actually give business tips. I don't dance, and I like to dance, but that's when it comes to my business, I'm not dancing.
Yeah.
I'm very we're about business. I'm about helping you make money as a business owner. So, yeah.
I'll let you, girl. That's what we need as a business owner. So
exactly.
We appreciate
Otherwise, you're not in business. You have a hobby. Thank you, Cris. Loved having you. And we will chat again soon.
We will. We will chat soon.
I want to thank Cris for joining me on the Become Your Own Boss podcast. Her contact info is in the show notes. The quote at the top of this episode, "A good relationship starts with good communication." I love this. I picked this quote because we have relationships with our vendors, our team, our customers, even our potential customers. We all do. The way we communicate with them impacts the way they view our business and our brand. I will share a quick story. When we were building out our office space, we needed an architect. And we began working with an architect here locally. Things started out great. However, when we got down to crunch time with the general contractor, he went ghost. This was several years ago, before the term ghost was even a thing. I called several times, and when he finally picked up after several days, he said to me, "You're acting like we're in a relationship." I laughed out loud and explained to him that we are in a business relationship. I tell you this story because as a business owner, you are in a number of relationships. Your business, your brand is in relationships. And much like a marriage or a romantic relationship, communication is the number one key to success. Needless to say, that conversation was the end of that business relationship because he did not take his business seriously, and we no longer did either. You see, our external relationships with customers will help us determine how to best market our products and services to them. And we want to make sure that we have clear and concise communication around that, especially in the environment we are in right now, where there is so much noise. We are inundated with marketing messages, with just social media messages, just TikTok fun. We are hit from every which way. I think of communications as an umbrella, and marketing sits underneath that umbrella. And it sits with many methods that we can use to market our products and services. We can, of course, use social media, but there's also email. Now there's SMS, advertising, and all of its different methods, sponsorships, special promotions, influencers, the list goes on and on. So having good communication practices is so important. Cris mentioned communication amongst your team as well. And this too is huge because you want your team to feel valued, not just by management, but also by other team members. I once heard the quote, "Clarity is kind." Clear communication amongst your team via SOPs or a simple Google Doc is kindness. It makes life easier for everyone on the team. Again, I want to thank Cris for sharing her expertise on this subject. Do you have a marketing and communications plan in your business? This is definitely something to think through if you do not currently. Keeping in mind that this goes beyond social media content, though that is for sure a part of it. Anyway, let me know. I'm curious to know if this is something you've created for your business. In full disclosure, in our first business, we did not have these elaborate plans. I think a lot of times when you're starting a business, you're literally flying by the seat of your pants and you're just doing whatever you can do to get your business out there and to make sure that it survives. So our marketing and communications plan was built over time. Our messaging to our customers was built over time. Our email marketing, email sequences, all of those things were built over time. So we don't necessarily have a written communications plan. Now we do have internal communications. We use River, as I mentioned in my interview with Cris. We also have standard operating procedures, which we house in Trainual. And so we definitely have internal communications. And over time, we have established all of these things for both our internal and external business practices. When it comes to the podcast, I actually do have a written marketing plan. And so that's very helpful. I don't always adhere to all of it, but it's there and I can go back and I can look at it. And it's really exciting to see those things in writing, but implementing it all can sometimes be a bit daunting. So that's where I am in this whole marketing communications plan. Thanks for listening and tuning in today. Join me on Instagram and TikTok at Become Your Own Boss Podcast. I love to share inspirational quotes. I also love to share business tips. So check me out there. Also, I have a survey that I would love for you to complete for an opportunity to win an Amazon gift card. And that survey, the link can be found in the show notes. Please check that out and complete it for me. I just want to get to know you better, know your needs better around the podcast and its content. Also, please share, rate, and review the podcast if you haven't already. And you can do that pretty much wherever you listen. Apple is a great place to rate and review. Now is the time to level up, leave a legacy, and become your own boss.